Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're looking at anxiety disorders. We've got some great info from the Mayo Clinic and Psychology Today to help us sort of get a grip on it all.
Yeah, we want to explore what they really are, the different types, maybe what causes them.
And crucially, when you might need to think about getting some help.
It's such a common thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Psychology Today points out something important. Nearly a third of adults in the U.S. face anxiety that feels, well, out of control.
Wow, a third. That's huge.
It really is. So our goal here is to understand that tipping point.
Hmm.
When does normal, everyday worry become something more? Something that really disrupts your life?
Right, give people a clearer picture.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's just start at the beginning. What is anxiety fundamentally? The Mayo Clinic draws a line between that occasional normal worry and the more persistent, kind of excessive type found in disorders.
Right. And Psychology Today adds a layer to that. They describe it as both mental, the feeling of negative expectation, the worry, and physical,
Physical, like how?
like the racing heart, tense muscles.
Yeah.
Your body basically gearing up because it thinks there's danger.
Ah, the fight or flight thing.
Sort of, yeah. And interestingly, Psychology Today says that discomfort isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's meant to be uncomfortable to push you to protect yourself.
Like nerves before a big presentation, maybe. Makes you prepare.
Precisely. But the question is, when does that system go haywire? When does it stop being helpful and become, well, a disorder?
That's the key question, yeah.
Well, both sources really zero in on the impact on your life. Is it consistently messing with school or work or how you relate to people?
Okay.
Is thinking about the anxiety or the worry itself taking up just a massive amount of your headspace?
Right.
Or are you actively avoiding things, places, people, situations, just to dodge those feelings? If yes, then we're likely talking about an anxiety disorder.
Got it. So what are the actual signs? What should you, look out for?
The Mayo Clinic gives a pretty comprehensive list. Feelings of nervousness, obviously, restlessness, being really tense.
Like you can't relax?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes a feeling of impending danger or even panic or doom, which can be
I
terrifying
can imagine.
physically. Increased heart rate is common. Rapid breathing, hyperventilation, sometimes sweating, trembling.
Okay.
Feeling weak or tired is another one. Trouble concentrating is huge because your mind is
Yeah.
just elsewhere. Sleep problems, too.
Makes sense if you're worrying constantly.
Right. Even GI issues like stomach problems.
Yeah.
And this difficulty controlling the worry. Plus that strong urge to just avoid whatever triggers the anxiety.
And Psychology Today also mentions some physical things.
They did, yeah.
Hmm.
They highlighted that heart-pounding feeling, jumpiness, maybe trembling, even ringing in the ears or shortness of breath.
Wow, it really manifests physically.
It absolutely does. It's like your body is convinced there's an immediate threat, even if logically you know there isn't.
And that can be confusing, right? Psychology Today mentioned people might think it's a physical illness.
Exactly. Someone feels their heart pounding, they might naturally worry about a heart condition. Understandable.
Yeah.
But that worry can then, of course, just ramp up the anxiety. It creates this loop where maybe you're chasing a physical diagnosis, but the root cause is actually anxiety.
That's tricky. It sounds like these disorders aren't all the same, though. The Mayo Clinic listed several different types. Can we touch on those?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with agoraphobia. It's often misunderstood.
How so?
It's not just about open spaces. It's a fear of situations where escaping might be hard or where help might not be available if you started to panic.
Like crowded places, public transport.
Exactly. Things like that. People might start avoiding those places altogether.
Okay. Then there's anxiety disorder due to a medical condition.
Right. That's pretty direct. The anxiety symptoms are a direct result of a physical health problem.
Like what kind of problems?
The Mayo Clinic lists things like heart disease, diabetes, thyroid issues, respiratory problems like COPD or asthma, even things like withdrawal from certain substances.
So it's important to rule out physical causes.
Definitely. Especially if anxiety pops up suddenly later in life or if there's no family history.
What about generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD? We hear that term a lot.
GAD is about persistent, excessive worry over, well, kind of everyday stuff: work, money, health, family,
Yeah.
the usual things.
But the worry is bigger.
Exactly. It's out of proportion to the actual situation, and crucially, people with GAD find it really, really hard to switch off that worry. Psychology Today also notes it can be common in older adults, maybe tied to different life worries.
And panic disorder. That sounds intense.
It is. It involves recurrent, unexpected panic attacks. These intense surges of fear come on really fast.
With physical symptoms,
Ooh,
too.
yeah. Often scary ones like shortness of breath, chest pain, dizziness, feeling like you're losing control.
Wow.
And a big part of panic disorder is the intense fear about having another attack. That fear itself can lead to avoiding places where attacks have happened. It's a vicious cycle.
Mayo Clinic also listed selective mutism and separation anxiety disorder. Those sound like they relate more to kids.
That's right, primarily diagnosed in childhood. Selective mutism is when a child just can't speak in certain social situations, like school, even though they talk fine elsewhere, like at home.
Okay.
And separation anxiety disorder is excessive anxiety about being separated from parents or caregivers, more than what's typical for their developmental stage.
Then there's social anxiety disorder, social phobia. Psychology Today mentioned that might be on the rise in younger adults.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Social anxiety is basically an intense fear of social situations because you're worried about being judged, embarrassed, or humiliated.
So parties, meetings,
Yeah.
even just casual conversations.
And all feel incredibly stressful, yeah, leading to avoidance. And the rise among younger adults. Well, Psychology Today hints at things like social media pressure, constant comparison.
The fear of negative judgment online or offline.
Could be a factor, yeah.
And specific phobias. That's like fear of spiders, heights.
Exactly. Intense fear and avoidance linked to a very specific object or situation. And the fear is usually way out of whack with the actual danger.
Okay. Substance-induced anxiety disorder seems pretty clear.
Yes, anxiety symptoms directly caused by using drugs, alcohol, certain medications,
Yeah.
or going through withdrawal.
Right. And lastly, Mayo Clinic had other specified and unspecified anxiety disorder. What's that cover?
Think of those as sort of catch-all categories for when someone definitely has significant anxiety that's causing problems, but it doesn't perfectly match the criteria for one of the other specific disorders.
So it acknowledges the problem even if it doesn't fit a neat box.
Precisely.
Wow, okay. It really is a broad spectrum. So what's actually causing all this? What are the triggers, the risk factors?
Well, the truth is, it's usually not just one single thing. Both sources agree it's likely a mix.
A combination of factors?
Yeah. Things like life experiences. Trauma is a big one, unfortunately.
Mm.
There also seems to be an inherited component, some genetic predisposition, perhaps.
So it can run in families.
It seems so.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are differences in brain chemistry and pathways, how our brains handle fear and stress signals.
And we already touched on those potential medical links Mayo Clinic mentioned.
Right. And they gave some pointers for when a medical cause might be more likely. Like if anxiety starts suddenly later in life with no prior history.
Or no family history.
Yeah, or if it doesn't seem linked to specific triggers you avoid, that might suggest looking deeper into physical health.
Okay. What about things that just make someone more likely to develop an anxiety disorder? Risk factors.
Mayo Clinic lists several key ones. Trauma, as we said, childhood or adult. High levels of stress, maybe from a chronic illness or just life piling up.
Stress buildup, yeah.
Certain personality traits might make people more prone. Having another mental health issue like depression also increases the risk.
And family history again.
Definitely. Plus, substance use or misuse can be both a cause and a consequence, complicating things.
Psychology Today had some interesting takes on modern life contributing too, right?
They did. They talked about this pervasive sense of uncertainty in the world today. Not that uncertainty causes anxiety directly, but it's fertile ground for worry to grow.
Makes sense.
They also brought up, maybe controversially, the idea of overprotective parenting, potentially hindering kids from developing their own coping skill.
Interesting point.
And of course, social media. The constant comparing, the FOMO fear of missing out, maybe even cyberbullying, seems like a significant pressure cooker, especially for younger people.
That's a lot to navigate, and I found that idea from Psychology Today really striking, that our ability to imagine the future is kind of fundamental to anxiety.
It is profound, isn't it? Because we can think ahead, we can anticipate potential problems, potential dangers.
Which is good for planning.
Right. But the flip side is, especially when things feel uncertain, we can also worry ourselves sick about what might go wrong.
Wow. Okay, this has been incredibly insightful. So the big final question, when should someone actually seek professional help? What are the signs it's time?
Mayo Clinic is really clear on this. If worry is just constantly interfering with your life, your job, school, relationships, just getting through the day, that's a big signal. If the anxiety feels totally overwhelming, like you just can't get a handle on it, or if you're also dealing with depression, maybe using alcohol or drugs to cope, or have other mental health stuff going on alongside the anxiety.
Definitely time to reach out then.
Absolutely. And crucially, if you're having any thoughts about harming yourself, that's an emergency. Please get help immediately.
Such a vital point.
It really is. And Mayo Clinic stresses that these disorders often don't just vanish on their own. They can actually worsen if left untreated.
So getting help early is better.
Much better. Early intervention can make a huge difference in managing it effectively.
Okay, so wrapping this up, we've seen anxiety is complex, it's a spectrum. The disorders are really defined by that disruption, that excessiveness.
Yeah, and there are many different types, different patterns,
Hmm.
driven by this mix of genetics, life events, brain function.
But the key takeaway, maybe the most important one from both Mayo Clinic and Psychology Today, is that help is available and treatments do work.
Definitely. Therapy, sometimes medication, lifestyle changes. There are effective ways to manage anxiety and, get your life back.
Which leads me to a final thought for everyone listening. Considering all this talk about modern uncertainty and technology's role, how can we maybe proactively build up our own resilience? How do we manage our relationship with potential anxiety triggers day to day?
That's a great question to reflect on.
It is definitely something to think about. And please do explore the resources we mentioned if you want to learn more or if you feel you might need support.